Hello and welcome to Two Balding Nerds. My name is George,
And I'm Kellen.
and today we're talking about the Kenobi trailer, the new show showing up on Disney Plus. And oh, what a trailer! What a trailer!
Yes, indeed. I've been waiting for this for a long time. There was a rumor that went out like a couple of months ago before the Disney Plus convention or whatever when they announced all those Marvel shows and stuff like that. And the rumor was that we were going to see a trailer back then, and we didn't get one. We got a bunch of teaser art instead, which was fine, but the trailer was amazing and definitely well worth the wait.
I would actually be kind of happy if this is the only trailer, just to give that little tasty taste, so the rest of it's completely a mystery. With that being said, I have to immediately jump in and say I loved how it started off kind of slow with him just walking through the town and seeing young Luke, who looks a lot like the original Anakin, actually, just
Yeah.
what they showed.
I think that was an obvious hit you over the head moment, like, hey, look how much like his father he is. Dreaming of piloting a ship, and like a lot of the people on YouTube think that maybe he's pretending that he's in a pod racer.
Or maybe he's just thinking he's driving to Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you listen to the opening when he says the fight is over, we lost. And a lot of people are theorizing that might be saying that to Qui-Gon, because the belief is that Liam Neeson is going to reprise his role as a Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn.
I believe that's the case too, and that will be freaking awesome.
Yeah. The other theory out there is that he is maybe speaking to like another Jedi that finds Obi-Wan Kenobi to try and rebuild the Order. Because at this point in time in the Star Wars timeline, like there are still a lot of, I don't want to say rogue Jedi, but like Jedi that survived Order 66 that are just kind of like Obi-Wan in hiding in plain sight sort of thing.
Yeah, there were also Jedi, at least in old lore, kind of like Ahsoka, who were still technically Jedi and Spirit, but not part of the Jedi Order. I think they were called originally Grey Jedi.
Yeah.
So, like, there's still those ones that could be looked into. And that's something that I can say this trailer did reveal, that I'm going like, oh, I'm so much more excited, because I did not expect them to be doing the Inquisitors from like Rebels and stuff. And I go, I've always wanted them to do like a movie or TV show of just Vader hunting down Jedi in between episodes 3 and 4, because there's a lot of stories of him doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I go, this seems to be kind of scratching at that thing that I've always wanted to see, but they're doing it with the Inquisitors, which I go equally excites me. Not to mention that since they've confirmed Hayden Christensen in the film, that means Vader is in it in some which way or form, either through flashbacks or actually as the guy in the big black suit.
My belief is that there are going to be scenes of the Inquisitors hunting down Jedi, and Darth Vader is going to be in it. And I think at some point, Obi-Wan's going to accidentally do something to kind of send a ripple through the Force that kind of attracts their attention to Tatooine. And most of the belief online is that after that happens, out of fear that they're going to sense Luke, he goes off planet, and that's why you're seeing scenes of him off planet on. I think they're saying that planet with all the neon lights and stuff like that is called Daiyu.
Okay.
And so he's basically trying to lure them away so that way they don't end up sensing Luke, which we all know is the case because the Empire doesn't know about Luke until he's blowing up the Death Star. So the one line I liked in that trailer is where Obi-Wan is saying, like, stay hidden. And I think he's referring to Luke. And I think he's saying that in that scene because he's about to leave the planet. And it's one of those things where Obi-Wan gets a bad rap from a lot of Star Wars fans, and they're like, oh, he's so cold-hearted, and, you know, he never cared about Anakin or Luke or whatever like that. And it's like, I feel like the exact opposite. I feel like he has a tremendous amount of love and compassion for the two of them. And it's one of those things, like, he's kind of almost like the stereotypical father that can't show his emotions, but they're there.
Kind of, from a certain point of view. Obi-Wan, I would say, especially if you watch the Clone Wars and everything, you can tell he does have quite a lot of compassion for people and stuff. He does have a very dry sense of sarcasm that he likes to do quite often. But I would say the part for me is I go, like, even if you think about his relationship with Anakin, he originally was kind of on Anakin when he first showed up.
Yeah.
He only trained him and did what he did because he had such a deep connection to his original master, Qui-Gon. So there is no lack of caring for Anakin. It just wasn't, he was more kind of thrusted upon him in a way of, like, I'd always see it as like Qui-Gon being the fatherly figure to both of them, and then the older brother is caring for the young one, but raising him the best he can, even though it's like he never wanted this and kind of got forced into
Yeah,
it.
and it wasn't emotionally or mentally equipped to do so. It was
Hmm.
kind of a bad situation for both of them.
Yeah, and like people have compared it to a fatherly relationship, but I think in episode 3 when Obi-Wan says, "You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you," it was like he was a brother to him. He was mentor, but he wasn't the mentor position like how Qui-Gon was to Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah.
But with that also being said, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Anakin, all them, this trailer kicked it into high gear the moment the vocals of Duel of the Fates kicked in. I just
Yeah.
immediately shot up with excitement as soon as I heard that. I was just like, "Oh, yes." Didn't think I was going to hear that, and I am so happy.
I'd have to give like a major kudos to whoever cut the trailer together and
Mhm.
whoever edited it because they did a fantastic job. And I mean, anytime you throw in Duel of the Fates or Battle of the Heroes in there, it's gonna be good because those are two great pieces of music in Star Wars. One of the things that you and I both love about Star Wars is the soundtrack. The music
Mhm.
in Star Wars is unmistakable,
Praise be to
unforgettable.
John Williams.
Yeah, John Williams is hands down the greatest composer of our time.
Yes.
Fight me on it. I don't care. I will go into a dark alley with you and I'll come out.
Yeah, no, I'll back you up, John Williams. No knocking others who are very good.
Oh yeah,
John
no, that's
Williams
that's
is
not what it is.
just so good, and
He's in a league of his own.
yes, absolutely. And I can also say when that came on, that also made the Inquisitors, when they were showing just the way that the ship flew by and the way they were talking about the Jedi of like they're predictable and you just need patience, which I found funny coming from dark side people needing patience. But
The thing is the Grand Inquisitor was a former Temple guard, right?
yes, I heard about that before actually. I don't know
Yeah,
much about it,
so
but
he's kind of speaking from experience there.
okay. And the other one too is I can say just the way they were talking, it sounded like lack of better word, sounded like someone who was enjoying the hunt, being like, "Oh, you know what you need to get a good catch? A little bit of patience." And I was like, "Oh
Yeah.
yes, that is." I cannot wait to see them. Like, I'm assuming they're gonna hunt down maybe a couple Jedi in this.
I would hope so. Yeah, I'm hoping that they hunt down other Jedi and kind of catch whiff of Obi-Wan and then they're on Obi-Wan's trail. It'll
Mhm.
probably all happen in the first episode.
I also like it just because the tone they've set up a tone where it's like once again kind of like Revenge of the Sith or even the last season of Clone Wars, where there's a kind of dark, depressing, we've lost the war feel to it, which is very clear from him saying that at the beginning of the trailer. But just the whole way that it was shot and the way the music was played, and it did have a sense of that scramble that the original Star Wars had, where it's like it's the really small glimmer of hope up against unbelievable odds. Unless you
Yeah.
throw in Ewoks, then somehow that even the odds against the planet killing machines. But I digress.
There's a couple of shots. I mean, you're talking about that one with the Black Sith Inquisitor ship
Mhm.
flying in over the water planet. That planet is apparently called Nur,
Yeah.
and we've seen it before. And I totally didn't clue in when I was watching the trailer. It was only after like somebody said something
Mhm.
that I went, "Oh right." You remember at the end of Jedi Fallen Order when you have to go to that planet at the end and you go into this like underwater base or whatever?
The one where Vader shows up.
Yeah, and like just chases you around the place and kicks the shit out of you. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's Nur.
Oh, cool.
And that's where the Inquisitors. That's kind of like their headquarters, and
Mm.
it's one of the moons of Mustafar.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize there's a moon
Yeah,
of Mustafars.
yeah.
Seems
So there's a scene there where it's like a shot of a boardroom or whatever, and there's a chair
Mhm.
kind of like on the opposite side of the table from where one of the Inquisitors are sitting,
Mhm.
and it's got these two like big spikes on it almost.
Yeah,
People are theorizing that that's Vader's chair and that's where he sits
that makes
when he
sense.
when he comes for meetings.
That makes sense. I'm interested to see because Disney, if I recall, was the one who created these Inquisitors in general.
Yeah. Well, there was, I mean, Sith Inquisitors came in one of the Star Wars games, and then they were kind of scrapped with a lot of the legend stuff.
Yeah, let me clarify this iteration of them. These
Yes,
characters in
yes,
particular that
yeah.
are known as the Inquisitors that have been around are Disney's creations.
I was gonna say a lot of like legend stuff was scrapped, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna bring it back, but just like a little bit different.
So far, everything I've seen of this, as anyone who's watched our channel will know, we have no shortage of things to say that we're not particularly thrilled about with what Disney's done with Star Wars. This one, on the other hand, There's literally almost nothing about the Inquisitors that I dislike. Only thing I can think of
Yeah.
is their weird ability to kind of like hover or fly using their spinny lightsabers.
Yes.
That part just doesn't make sense, but I'm willing to overlook it because so much of the rest of it is so good. And like that is legitimately my only complaint I have about them.
That was in the Rebels TV show, so I'm
Yeah.
hoping that is something that stays to that and that we don't end up seeing that in live action because A, it's going to look goofy,
Mhm.
and B, we've talked in the past about suspension of belief.
Mhm.
That's one of those things that's beyond suspension of belief. Like, I can ignore minor things, but telling me that you can fly or glide down by spinning a lightsaber above your head, no. I'm not going to believe that for a second.
Well, the dark side do lead to some
Is a
abilities.
pathway.
Some would say is unnatural.
Definitely a pathway to many abilities some would consider unnatural. The trailer here was just excellent from beginning to finish. I had
Mhm.
chills literally the whole way through.
Yep.
And I can't say that about many trailers that I've watched, but this one just like had me in complete goosebumps.
Oh
And
yeah.
after watching the trailer, I was just buzzing. As you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite character, and
Mhm.
I've been waiting for this, like I said, for such a long time. May 25th can't come quick enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely say, as of what I mentioned earlier, Vader's my favorite character.
Yes.
And the thought that they might be actually, I was always concerned with them doing the idea of also Vader hunting down Jedi because I was like, that's just so dark for Disney. I can't see them doing it. And I also thought, well, they could also kind of goof it up somehow. Now that I'm seeing this, I'm going like, oh wait, this might be the perfect way to do it, where they don't go full blown, just the whole thing is Vader hunting Jedi, but they have little blurps of it, and I cannot wait to potentially see what they do with this. Even if they don't have Vader barely in it, already just seeing Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, and he's kind of just aged enough that I think it suits it right now. Yeah, I'm beyond excited to see it. I cannot say how excited I am for this.
I think Vader doesn't need to be in this all the time. I
Mhm.
think it would be a misuse of the character if he's in it
Yes.
constantly. I think if he's used kind of sparingly in a few
Mhm.
scenes that are really big
Yeah.
deals, like the saying goes,
Yeah, like how he was in Rogue One.
yeah, like he was only in it for a few scenes and then the one scene at the end, people are still talking about it 6 years later.
Mhm.
And it even got its own name. It was called the hallway scene.
Mhm.
And since that scene came out, we've had a hallway scene with Luke. We've had a hallway scene in the most recent Batman movie. And I mean, that was kind of a cut and paste from The Dark Knight Rises. But still, we've had these other movies do their own version of a hallway scene where the main character just like tears through fucking 20 guys in a hallway
Mhm.
and comes out of it unscratched without even having broken a sweat. It's just cool.
They've done it before Vader did it, but that scene from Rogue One was pretty much perfect to kind of demonstrate just the absolute tank Vader was. And since we hadn't seen him doing that in really ever, it was totally worthwhile to see. So if they do, like, it's guaranteed that he's going to be in the show some which way or form. How they do it,
Yeah.
I'm super excited about. But as you stated, Obi-Wan's the main character, and I'm super excited just to see Obi-Wan, how he's done in this show and how they kind of portray him. And I'm sure I'm excited to see them attempt to throw in Mandalorian because I'm sure they're going to try it. Just kidding. I hope they don't.
I was gonna say I really hope they don't.
You know.
I was actually gonna bring up the fact because in our Batman review we were talking about recency bias,
Mhm.
and one of the things is with this releasing so close to the end of the book of Boba Fett, which was, I don't want to say objectively, I think subjectively still, but there's a good portion of people that were disappointed by that
Mhm.
show, and with that being so recent in our memories, there is a bit of concern for me that the story of this show is going to go a similar way and that they're going to try and shoehorn appearances in and stuff like that. Like, are we going to see Ahsoka and are they going to try and work the Mandalorian in somehow? I just hope that they don't do that, and I hope it's a really tightly focused story about Obi-Wan and Anakin and their clash.
I think and hope that that is the case too. Mostly because I go, Mando would be still quite young in this one, so it wouldn't make sense for him to, like, he wouldn't run into him as an older person in general, as we know him now. He would run into him as like a
That
kid.
is true, because it's about 15 years before the Mandoverse, so that makes
They
sense.
could potentially throw in Grogu, but even then, I'd say that would be a little bit of a stretch because then why would Obi Wan be like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
you're on your own"? so that's not likely. Ahsoka is the most probable and possible to show up.
Yeah.
And even then, if they do that properly, it's not really the end of the world. And let's face it, they've already thrown in the Inquisitors. And if I call
Mhm.
in Rebels, the Inquisitors were like genuinely shocked and surprised to run into Ahsoka. So it
Mhm.
wouldn't make sense if they had already met her before and they're like, hey, it's you again. But they act just as shocked as they did. So even that, I'd say, is a long shot, which to me is all good things because it's like, good. Chances of them not shoehorning in someone just being like, hey, remember this character? Tune in next time for their show. If
Yeah.
anything, they might introduce new characters to be like, oh yeah, we're going to be creating a show about them later on.
One question I had for you,
Mhm.
though, and this is kind of a controversial topic in the Star Wars fandom, but it's going back to the line from A New Hope where Vader says, "A present I've not felt since," and then he kind of trails off.
Mhm.
We were promised that there was going to be a fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, but they didn't state whether it was going to be like on a flashback or if like they actually meet up and fight. Because a lot of people take that line to mean literally he hasn't seen him since he lost 3 limbs to him on Mustafar that day. So what's your feeling on that matter? Do you care if they meet up and the context of that line sort of changes, or do you want that to still mean I haven't seen him since that day on Mustafar when he chopped off 3 of my limbs?
I'm torn on it. I would say that a little concerned with the idea of them meeting up and going at it because the epic battle that they had on Mustafar is supposed to be that epic clash they had both at their prime, so to say. And
Yeah,
then when they meet on the Death Star, it's more so that they're old and
things have come full
yeah, exactly.
circle.
They come full circle. And the other one too is I was under the impression that this might be old lore or whatever. I was under the impression that Star Wars had made a explanation of why they kind of fought so robotically on the Death Star. Obviously, it was because they just didn't have the effects and the training and all that jazz because they didn't think Star Wars was potentially going to be anything other than a one movie show. So they didn't put in the budget to
Yeah,
have a massive choreographed fight. But in the Star Wars lore of it, they kind of made a. I heard before that they had made a reason for that being that Obi-Wan was just essentially trying to distract, kind of knowing where his fate was leading to. And Vader was legitimately a little bit cautious because he had been building up for so long wanting to fight Obi-Wan. But when he actually came face to face with him, there was a decent amount of fear where it's like, okay, last time,
well, there's a hesitancy, right, in the
Less
back of
is
his mind.
more.
Last time I fought this dude, he chopped off 3 of my limbs, so I gotta be careful.
especially old lore, and I think new lore has it too. Vader's suit is supposed to be very uncomfortable. As someone who's dressed up in a Darth Vader
Yeah,
costume before, they are quite uncomfortable normally.
yeah,
So he's thinking about the fact that last time he saw Obi-Wan, not only does he hate his guts now, and he feels betrayed and yada yada yada. As you just said, he lost 3 of his last good limbs and got burnt to a crisp, and now has a machine that makes him breathe. And even like eating and stuff like that is uncomfortable for Vader now. So
well, the suit itself was purposely designed by Palpatine to be
mhm,
uncomfortable and just be constantly an irritant to
yeah,
him, so that he's constantly in a pissed off state because the suit he's bound
mhm,
to survive is irritating to
yeah,
wear.
and it heightens his anger and his emotions for the dark side.
Yeah, it keeps you in an agitated state all the time. It's like if you were wearing a suit that had like, I don't know, like porcupine quills or cactus, the little needles from a cactus on the inside just scratching and poking you all the time. One of the videos I watched, I believe it was by Star Wars Theory. He actually discusses Vader's outfit and all that kind of stuff, and he literally mentions from the material he had that he's explaining, like pieces of Vader's flesh
Mhm,
get caught in the suit and get like pinched or pulled
mhm,
and stuff like that. And it's just like super uncomfortable to wear. So it's one of those things too where it's like he could be in a lot of discomfort while he's fighting, and like you said, he's hesitant because he wants to make sure that he doesn't slip
mhm.
up and let this old man best him a second
Yeah.
time. So
So, like, that's where coming back to your original question, I go, that type of dynamic that they had in that explanation makes sense based off of what we currently know of Vader. Last time he fought was on Mustafar and got his ass kicked.
yeah.
So, if they have an actual fight where it's Obi-Wan versus Vader now, and it's this Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Vader, obviously he'd be in his suit in some form, it would then made me go, well, unless Obi-Wan like kicks his ass again, which I go, that's not good for Star Wars lore to be like, oh, okay, so Obi-Wan seems to be able to kick Vader's ass now any day of the week he wants to. Maybe if they do an absolutely amazing fight, I would be okay with it. It's kind of like there's a YouTube video where someone recreated the fight between Obi-Wan and Vader on the Death Star, and it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Scene 38.
Yes, that one. And like that one is really good, and I really do enjoy watching that one. And if they did something along those lines, I would probably enjoy it nonetheless. But I would be a little concerned for the greater lore of just being like, well, if they have a badass fight like that, then it makes even less sense why then on the Death Star, once again, they're so hesitantly fighting again. Like
Yeah.
I would be a little bit concerned about. I wouldn't mind like a cat and mouse thing where Vader knows that Obi-Wan's around, but he just can't quite get to him. And like maybe he's
Hmm.
cutting down other Jedi who are trying to uh
And Obi-Wan's trying to
yeah,
escape.
trying to help Obi-Wan escape or whatever. If he does something like that and is super ticked that he just missed him, that I think would be perfect.
Well, they're promising us like another like a rematch. So
Mhm.
I think unless they do it in sort of like a nightmare sequence for Obi-Wan where he's kind of like reliving that trauma,
Mhm.
which I think they should really hone in on because I mean, that is a traumatic experience, man, having to cut down somebody who you consider to be family and having to live with that, and he feels extremely guilty about everything that happened. He's blaming himself for Anakin's fall and probably takes that very very much to heart,
How
so
could someone possibly find it traumatic to have to cut down someone that you used to feel closest
right.
to being your brother, who also single-handedly ruined your world order, killed almost everyone you knew, and ended up becoming the Dark Overlord of the galaxy? What part of that is traumatic?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping that this TV show is really focused on story and that they don't pull a Book of Boba Fett where they kind of do a 2 episode detour or even a 1 episode detour for something else. Just give me Anakin and Obi-Wan and their struggle, and I'm gonna be happy boy.
I'd be happy with that. I'd also, once again, I would love to see what happens with the Inquisitors because we know at this point the way this show is being shot. I believe, well, one of those Inquisitors is going to die in Rebels, so he can't die in this show.
Yeah,
And I can't recall if the other one is alive or not in Rebels. I can't remember what happened to him. The bigger one, the kind
yeah.
of dome
I
shaped
can't
guy.
remember either. It's been like years since I watched Rebels.
Certain people, it's one of those things that's always kind of unfortunate when they do these prequel things. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, certain people we know cannot and will not die. So when Vader shows up, he's safe. He's making it through this thing. Obi-Wan, safe, making it
Hmm.
through this thing. Luke, safe, making it through this thing. Even the Inquisitor that we saw, they can't do it like they did with Cad Bane and Boba Fett, where it's like, oh, great, they brought in Cad Bane and he's dead. I have to say, as much as there's lots of things that I'm a little bit cautious about because of how Book of Boba Fett went, I can definitely say I am extraordinarily excited about Obi-Wan. That trailer got me far more excited than I was before, and I was already going like, okay, this will probably be the best one that Disney puts out.
With all that being said, if you had to rate this trailer out of 10, what are you
Easy a
giving it?
10. Easy a 10.
And this is the first and might be the only where we unanimously agree that it's a 10 out of 10
Mhm.
without
Yeah,
question.
no,
And that might be the Star Wars shill in us because we're like you said, you're a Darth Vader fan and I'm an Obi-Wan fan, and this show is like tailor made for the two of us.
maybe.
But I mean, just like how we mentioned before, this the music and the way they cut the trailer, it was just perfect.
Not just those things are perfect. I will 100% agree. Cinematographically, it was perfect. Music, it was perfect. Obi-Wan looks absolutely nails, obviously, the look because he's been a great Obi-Wan ever since he was first given the role. But
Hmm.
I'd say even the little things, or not even so much little slash big things they did, the fact that I did not know that the Inquisitors were going to be included in this, and they are included. And I have to say, for taking that very stylized art of Rebels and converting it to real life, they did a decent job because it could have looked absolutely disastrous.
I think, like with Cad Bane, even people are complaining, "Oh, he doesn't look exactly like he does in the cartoon." I'm like, he looks very specific in the cartoons. That's kind of difficult to replicate without using
Mhm.
CGI. And it looks like Disney, bless their hearts, it looks like they're trying to do stuff with more practical effects, which I respect.
Absolutely.
So when you're doing it with practical effects, it's kind of hard to get a mouth like Cad Bane's to work with practical effects without using any computer manipulation. So cut them some slack. They look close enough.
Mhm.
Looks passable to me.
Yeah.
And it's not so obvious that it's like, oh my God, I can't look at this without freaking out mentally. You know, it's not that distracting.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be
Yeah, I
okay.
agree. And like one, as I was saying for my hype train, I'm going like, yeah, if you want to, you can super nitpick that. But that even for us, I'd say that's a serious nitpick if you want to go down that
Yeah.
trail. But I'm going like the fact that they even introduced them into the show adds more layer of what the show could be. And it is a time in the Star Wars period that I absolutely love. And I just cannot wait to see it brought to Disney Plus.
Yeah, like quite literally. I know earlier in this video I said, you know, I've been waiting for this a long time, and I've been waiting for it since I ever found out that this was going to be a show. Actually, it started off, it was supposed to be a movie, but even then, dating back to like 2005 when all we had was the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. We didn't have, I mean, and we had the Clone Wars TV show or whatever. We didn't have that much Star Wars content to kind of fill in the gaps. Like now we're getting the Bad Batch, which is kind of showing the beginning of the Empire. We're getting the Mandalorian, which is showing you post Empire. We're getting this Obi-Wan show, which is kind of showing you 10 years after the Empire is formed. So we're getting all these bits of content that are filling in gaps, which is cool because it's like you're seeing all where the continuity goes, and it's great to see. And I know we had some of that stuff like in printed form, but we never had it in a video format, you know, and nothing that was live action and that was considered canon.
I was just about to call you on that and go, dude, there's like a ton of books. But yeah,
Yeah,
if you say
yeah, yeah,
specifically in TV format, no, we had, I think,
yeah. That's what I was meaning.
mm,
Like I know that there was books and comics and stuff like that, but we never had it in sort of like a video format, which is how I mean there is a group of people that still buy comics and
a
whatever,
big
but
group.
yeah, for the average fan though, they tend to consume media via video and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't mind reading books, but I much prefer to just kind of sit down and shut my brain off and watch a TV show than have to read through a book or whatever, right? So
Fair enough. Well, you can tell how excited we are considering a minute and a half long trailer spawned literally a 30-minute discussion. So, yeah, we're excited. And we want to know if you're excited. If you are, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. Or if you're not excited, we'd love to hear that because I have no idea how you could not be excited from this trailer.
and don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video today, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for further content. We're always putting out more videos on stuff like this. And until next time, may the force be with you.
And we'll see you next time on Two Balding Nerds.